Everybody. This is the energy update for energetically sensitives and empaths. My name is Jona Bryndis, airing from transCODES back in Colorado. It is not quite warm enough for me to sit underneath the trees here in my tent, but I'm glad I'm back home. I hope you guys are having a somewhat manageable experience right now. Collective energies here for this last week were quite challenging for most energetically sensitives and empaths. And without sounding too pessimistic, the energy barometer for this week is showing a slight sort of de-escalation here of this intensity, but we're still in the middle of it. So a lot of you, and if you hear this for the first time, then please know that you're not alone with this. A lot of you guys have had very, very strange experiences those last 4 or 5 days. Very strong sort of vibratory experiences, tingling or even shaking maybe. Most energetically sensitives experience this around the legs or the chest area. We've had people with a lot of intense experiences, such as accidents, such as even emergency room visits or sudden things that happen to them, sort of a series of unfortunate events. All right. I hope that you guys navigated through this time. And if you were a part here of this transCODES community, then you would have probably found a few more people that are having these same strange experiences. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. This wave is almost over. Latest by the beginning of next week, it should be better. Yes, and while people are still logging on here, let me welcome you, everyone. Thank you for spending your time here with me. Please let me know what country you're from. And also, please ask questions. This is a live stream, so you have the opportunity to ask directly. I will try to cover the things that came forward here for most empaths in this last week, and we're looking at the forecast for next week. Hello, Canada. Yes, I know people are happy to see that the barometer is going up a bit, but remember, this is not an indicator for good or bad energies. This is an indicator for intensity. Okay, so we've had 2 weeks of maximum intensity, electricity, power, inward, outward, from the outside, from the inside, somehow trying to regulate itself. And I've shared this here in the forecast for April. If you have not watched this video, please go to the April forecast. The energetic stress was extremely high. And so a lot of people went into fear, anxiety, but also the frustration and the anger about things not moving forward, the stagnation that is felt. So I've been warning you guys about this for the last 3 weeks because this is really the height of wanting to break free from this old blocking energy. Okay, so this is the correctional phase that we are in all together, and you've got to understand that if you continue doing things the way you have been doing them, then you will most likely get the same results. Now, the anxiety attacks, and that's something I would like to cover today here in particular, have a lot to do with your mental activity. And for most of us energetically sensitives, really the lack of training, the lack of knowledge about how all this works, we all starting to realize that we are sort of an energetic being that is having a bodily experience, as opposed to the old paradigm thinking that we are like a body that has a spiritual experience. I would strongly disagree with this. What we are experiencing here as humans in this collective awakening process, where we begin to feel energies and we begin to become more familiar with some of these energetic ups and downs, all right, which is ultimately the reason for this energy update, to give you guys a heads up and to get some feedback as well. I know a lot of people watch this video actually after the week has happened, so they don't set themselves up. I agree with that, but there's also the section here with the tips and how to counteract things, and that's why I do this looking into a week, because when you better know how to deal with things, then this mental churning, this worrying and excessive thinking about what is going on may or can be reduced that way. So I think it's a good idea to look at what's ahead of you without getting attached to it, without setting yourself up, but with seeing this as like a weather forecast where there's always variations, of course, and there's always the potentiality that you can adjust to it and not even experience it as a negative thing. Yes. Hi, Pennsylvania. Awesome for you guys to pop in here. Most people watch these videos as the edited version later on, but I love having you guys here live, because I really, really like the interaction with you. Everyone who works here with me and the other fantastic trans coaches here at transCODES knows this. So please go into chat with me here if you would like to know more, or if you have questions, even if they're not related to what I'm talking about. So let's come back to the anxiety. So what is anxiety? Okay, obviously there is a physical reaction that comes with anxiety, and most of you've experienced some sort of that, maybe not labeled as anxiety, but it comes forward as, like, say, heart palpitations. Your heart rate increases, your hands become sweaty, maybe you have a sort of a cringing feeling in your stomach, you get very nervous. This is your autonomous nervous system that's responding, and that's why last week's energy tip was to tune into your parasympathical, how do you say this in English, parasympathicus system, that can counteract these nervous reactions, these nervous physical reactions. So you have all these reactions and you don't even know why, and then your emotions get all stressed out because now you're thinking something is wrong with you, and then of course your mind begins to think about what this could mean, and maybe I'm sick, or maybe I'm having a stroke, or maybe I'm having a heart attack, and this is what creates sort of an increase in escalation in that energetic sensation that you have, where if you knew that this is part of the energetic wave that is coming in right now, and what it does is it creates a little bit of energetic stress that doesn't necessarily lead to a physical, like a medical condition, but it's something that requires grounding. So last week the task was really to learn, or to know how to calm you down and to ground your energy, and to not fall into this trap of thinking too much, all right? Because the thinkingness, which actually happens without your volition, so there's no way you can turn off your mind, but what you can do is you can learn how signal processing works within your body, and then know when to catch it, when to interrupt it. So with energetic sensations, the way this goes is that they usually come in physically first through your autonomous nervous system, okay, and they're showing you certain areas of your body where there is some kind of reaction to something, okay, and knowing what energy centers are located there, knowing how to clear your energies, what exits you have at these places, can actually help you to release those energies right away. That's of course part of energy training, but what has to happen next is to calm down your emotional reaction, because the emotions are the ones that are tied to your autonomous nervous system, to your body, through your neurotransmitters. So they're now creating a reaction to what you are experiencing, what you are sensing, and then the mind responds right afterwards, and it's exactly in this order, and all this happens within a few fractions of a second. But the mind then reacts as well. So it is not really the energetic sensation that we have per se that is in the foreground. When we go into anxiety, it is our mental interpretation and the emotional reaction to what we're experiencing. And yay, hello to South Africa. It's wonderful to have you guys all here at this time of the day. I know it's like in the middle of the night or very early in the morning for some of you. So, regardless, I just love seeing you guys here. Thank you for coming. So, it's not the sensation itself, it is the reaction to it. But that is what we need to learn as energetically sensitives, how these things relate. And there's a physical, there's an emotional, there's a mental, there's a spiritual, behavioral, and of course, an etheric a level or layer to these reactions. And so, even if you've never heard anything about energy healing, just the knowledge about your energy centers, and this doesn't have to be like all woo woo, you know. There's a very cool literature, very cool training courses, and this is what we do here at transCODES, primarily helping people to understand their energy system a little better. You don't need to want to become an energy healer to benefit from this knowledge, you know, and beginning to feel things within yourself, and knowing sort of what you can do according to these reactions that you feel. So the whole point, looking back to last week, is that it was extremely stressful on many, many different levels. And we now need to kind of work with, you know, sort of getting rid of all this residue that has built up here. And I've recommended to do a detox, a house cleaning in the physical, which here at transCODES we're currently doing. We started this morning a 3-day reboot detox light fast with you know, juices and soups, just to get our system sort of speed up a little bit. And also, and this is some of this spiritual metaphysical component, to increase the capacity for us to hold these higher frequencies that are indeed now coming in for this entire planet. So the problem with the contextualization of these metaphysical events, and metaphysical only because they are not entirely proven through science, at least not through some parts of science. There are some scientists that are very much aware of it and that make a case for it, but it's not fully mainstream accepted yet. So we live or have lived with this for the last 20 years, and so be it. But the point of these correctional energies is really to help us to gradually increase the capacity for, you know, these higher vibrational states that we are as a collective moving towards to. All right, and that means that the container here that we have, you know, the capacity for light, you know, that this needs to be enlarged, and that requires a person to actually educate themselves about the energy body. All right, so that you know how to expand, that you know how to remove blockages as you detect them, or have a professional remove them, but that you are actually able to hold all that. If you can't hold this, and this is what happened here last week, which most of us can't yet, we have these like really strong sort of buzzing type of feelings, and that creates a lot of emotional and mental reaction, which then leads to these you know, extreme sort of situations, and also accidents and stuff like that, because, you know, we feel kind of out of sorts. Okay, we're overextended. London, good to see you guys once more. So yeah, so we're exhausted now and drained, and this needs to be healed a little bit. And the best way to approach this is through clearing out some of that sort of stress related residue in you. And the best way to do this really is, as most of you know, is to calm down, to learn how to meditate, to eat better food. Especially here in the Northern Hemisphere, it's springtime. It's important that you know adjust to this sort of new life in nature, and that you know, embrace that. So last week I said, you know, water, good nutrients, and sunlight, and of course the air to breathe. Those are all things that are available to all of us, and they don't require a special budget. All right, so take my word here that the better you diet, the better your sort of mindfulness practice with your physical and also with your mind, you know, the meditation and you know, stretching and so forth, you know, physical exercise, all in a balanced way, the easier it is for you to really expand into energies. And from a manifestation standpoint, you know, if your container is too small, you cannot really hold these places that you want to be in, you know, in abundance, in a true love, in you know, having a wonderful environment that helps you to expand, that helps you to be inspired and creative. But if your energy is too contracted, then you will not be able to manifest that, just due to these energetic restrictions that you have. And so most of these thoughts that we had, this turning and the anxiety, last week I lovingly called them brain farts. Okay, they were based on, and I don't mean this in a you know, degrading way. They were based on what ifs and all these sort of purely mental and critical negative inner voices. All right, and I wanted to share with you that critical inner voice is a standing term here at transCODES. We have a specific modality for dealing, you know, for helping you or coaching you through dealing with your critical inner voice, because it's such a common phenomenon. Okay, and the critical inner voice has to do with your growing up. It has a lot to do with what you were exposed to when you were a child, what the people around you say, not necessarily directly to you, also about others. And so a lot of us, when we run into these mental self-imposed restrictions, all right, come from our childhood. And that's why we are doing the inner child integration here on Friday night this week, for those of you who would like to work with this actively, because you know, when your critical inner voice represents all these voices that conditioned you, that programmed you, and these restricting beliefs that we have, they are tied to this inner child, and sometimes actually multiple inner children that feel restricted, or in worst case scenario, sort of locked up in the basement. When we have multiple inner children, these represent specific restrictions at specific times of you growing up. So you can have, like, say, an infant inner child that got abandoned or not sufficiently nourished in the first year of development. You can have a 3-4-year-old, you know, that was told to shut up, that was told to not express herself fully, or that was locked up or wasn't allowed to explore the world. And then you can have a 12-year-old inner child, you know, that was maybe overprotected or controlled too much from the outside. And all these events, not to say that it's our parents or caretakers who caused this, but they all carry a part of that say, restriction that we have in us. And so when we want to heal this, we need to go back to this part of us and help it to liberate it. We have to help our inner child to come back into the light and to become a part of us again. And in that way, that's an energetic way to heal deeper aspects of ourselves. In that way, we help ourselves to increase the capacity for, you know, our light body, our energy body, or what you want to say it, for higher vibrational states. All right. Hello, New York. Yes, wonderful. Thank you guys for coming once more. So, yeah, so the critical inner voice and the inner child are related. And the liberation process that is going on, which is what all this correction is about, has a lot to do with us, especially us energetically sensitives and empaths, to find the way back to our true inner voice, to our true inner feeling. Too many of us, and this is sort of very, very typical of this first and second wave of spiritual awakenings. Like starting for most of us, it started in the mid 80s. All right. And there was a second wave, that came in towards the end of the 90s, and then another one coming in 2012. So, those of us who've been around for a long time, in our childhood, talking about our sensations, our visions, our gut feelings was very poo-pooed. It was very actually, many of us actually even got punished for that. And so a big part of that healing path that we are on is to open this part of our perceptivity back up, and to feel confident, and to learn how to trust in this part of ourself. And so this next week here will have a lot to do with you training to hear your true inner voice. So your critical inner voice is that part, is this overlay of all these voices of things that you've heard in the past, and things that you've beaten yourself up with, like with I should have, and why didn't I do that? Oh my God, I can't believe I just did this. Oh my God, this is killing me, blah, 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 blah. Or, you're ruined, you are a loser and stuff like that. So that's the negative inner voice. And the main characteristic of that voice is that it's really loud. So the true inner voice is not that loud. It's always there as well. And you guys know this. I know you know this, because I talk to you guys all day long. And all we really need to learn and train is how to turn down the volume of that critical negative inner voice and turn up the volume of our true inner voice, which is kind of like an automatic process. So we need to learn how to trust in our gut feeling, if you will. But I mean this, of course, for you guys, empaths and energetically sensitives. It's more than that. It's actually inner guidance. You will get very distinct messages, very distinct visuals, and very distinct guidance as to what you should do. But the problem with the inner discernment is that the critical inner voice is too loud. And so most of you are still a bit confused as to what is my true self speaking and what is my sort of wounded self speaking. All right. But the good news about all that is that this is all now coming to an end here in 2018. So the overall process is to liberate ourselves from these things and really to step up, to come out of the woodwork, as I called it a few years back. This is 2019 will be a lot easier for all of us. But already here in the summertime, many of you guys will start having enough of the same old, and suppressing your stuff and living in this restricted way where you can't fully express yourself. So that's why there's so many people coming forward now that want to learn how to become an energy healer, that begin to listen to this inner calling. And this, we've been training energy healers or people who want to become energy healers from all over the world for years. And we're specialized on people who already work with other people, or even energy healers already, to learn the deeper aspects here with the professionals at transCODES. So for those of you interested in checking this out, there is an energy healer program for professionals, life coaches, therapists, healing arts, any kind, or someone who already has contact to clients or patients every day and who wants to learn how to integrate energy healing into your practice. This is what we're specialized on. And the next training starts May 1st, by the way. Yes, and for those of you, by the way, I just put this online surprise. We have once a year we do trainings in person. It's highly educative. It's very intense for 3 days. And our next training is going to be around the summer solstice, 20th till 22nd of June in Winter Park, Florida this time, USA. So if you can come, then perhaps you want to use this opportunity to train with Jeff and I in person. Yes, and so in order to get these true self promptings, as we call them, to work for you better and not to get into this place where your true self promptings turn into true self interventions. All right. And this is something that some of you can maybe relate to. That's namely when you are forced to stop whatever it is that you're doing, when you are forced to start something new, or bring in change. And this is the cause for all these accidents, guys. Accidents, sudden diseases, especially the flare up of chronic diseases. But these are all signs from your energy system that, hey, dude, something is not right. Okay, and if you're not listening to me, I'm going to make you listen. I'm going to stop your car. I'm going to, have you, this sounds harsh, but, I'm going to have you strain your ankle, or I'm going to, so that you stop doing what you're doing. All right, and that you take this time, this recovery time, to reconcile with your true self. What you truly want, what you truly need, and come up with new ways. Most people just do this once a year at the beginning of the new year, and that's it. And after 6 weeks, all these good resolutions are gone. But your energy body, works 24/7 all your life, and it is a part of your inner system that can guide you. But as long as you are listening to these critical inner voices, or other people for that matter, more than to your inner guidance, the chances are that your decisions, your choices, are not really that congruent with where you want to be. All right, and this is also another aspect here for the next week, namely this breaking free from all your externalizations. Guys, I've talked about externalizing your inner higher power pretty much, for as long as I am an energy healer, because this is the core of most of our issues, whether energetically sensitive or not. It is that we externalize our power to others. First, of course, we have to do this when we grow up. We have to externalize our power to our parents, because our physical isn't even, developed enough yet to help us to survive. But then this continues with school and college and work, and false self things, like things that we think we need to have or we need to do. All right, and this is where we develop these codependencies, where we develop the conformism that slowly kills us. All right, and you know me, I like talking about things in this direct manner, because there's really no way to sugarcoat this. So when we feel completely frustrated, by the time we're 30, that's usually 29, 30 is the first, statistically, is the first occasion where people start questioning what they were doing. And then later, usually when the kids go move out, or when, some kind of relaxation happens with the financial situation around 45. And then once more when retirement hits, because those are these times where we naturally go through transitions. We have these rites of passages in rites of passage in these times, and that's when we need to do a house cleaning. That's when we need to remove the things that do not serve us anymore. And anyone who is caught in these dependencies, runs into an extremely high energetic stress, because you're not congruent. You're doing something that you thought was the right thing, or to please others, or because you simply didn't know any better. And your system is now starting to really get stressed out, because you are not following your path, your personal path of your highest potential, or karmic task, if you will. And that's where you guys need to understand why this is so important, this kind of talk. Okay, there's a lot of woo-woo stuff out there, a lot of esotericism, and I hate to say it, but this is part of the cleaning house sort of momentum that is coming in with a lot of bad guidance, with a lot of misguidance. So if you're asking me, I've been around in the spiritual world here for over 30 years. If you're asking me, 95% of these gurus out there, or these people that say you can only get there through me, okay, are do not have your best interest in mind. Yes, Ireland. Oh, so cool you guys here all. Today must be a good day. So many people coming today. Wonderful. Thank you. So there's a lot of false guidance out there, and I, there's always, of course, people who want to make a business, or I make a living from this, but this is different when you have people who actually have the agenda of making you dependent on them. So for your discernment tool, any teaching or any teacher or any guide who tells you that the only way to get there is through them, and they have the only secret, okay, this should raise your true inner voice to say, wait a minute, this can't be. How can you be the authority for me? Nobody can be the authority for what your true self, really wants you to do, or who you truly are. Therefore, I strongly recommend you guys that you when you're in this process of trying to find a mentor or a guide or a guru or a teacher, then always feel this out. Does this feel true to me within? Right? Always feel this out. There's your inner voice that can tell you whether or not this is true to you. Now, I do want to point out that there are different stages of our journey. There's different phases, and so there will be teachers that are really, really good for certain phases of your journey, and they will bring you to a certain place, and then they will not be, or they won't be able to get you any farther. That's when you shift. That's when you become interested in other teachings. And so don't judge yourself if you feel like you've fallen for these kind of teachers in the past. Some of us have to have had that experience in order to become able to discern this fully. But then it's important you move on without beating yourself up, and just seeing all that as an experience is very important. When it comes to sort of the further development here with the spiritual awakening, I'm actually seeing a lot of problems here in the future with fanatism and cultish behavior again. So I just watched this cool documentary about Bhagwan Osho, as most of you know, who rebranded after there was some legal issues. And it's amazing, how many people follow a teaching that restricts people on all levels. All right, so I want you to really use your discernment here in the future, because there's going to be a lot of sort of self-proclaimed whatever second Jesuses, or avatars of this or that, or gurus of that or that. Okay, so make sure that you don't fall for this. And in your personal lives, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter what personal situation you are in. If you externalizing your power to make decisions to your spouse, to your children, sometimes even to your parents, or to whatever the neighbors think, then you are there's a very high chance that you are in a place of self-imposed restrictions, and that will cause anxiety, that will cause depression, because you cannot really expand the way you need to expand. Okay, and so anxiety and depression and other states, even anger management issues, those are very often related to the things that people cannot see, that are not that obvious, namely the incongruence from within. And once more, I've talked about this a lot here in the past couple of weeks, and also in the 21 days live energy trainings, in the videos here. Watch them if you haven't done so. It's about your unmet needs. All right. So because we cannot talk about this forever here, and I need to come to the forecast and the energy tips that I have for you. I just needed to get you into that sort of feeling of what this next week is going to be about. Yes. Yes, Gerald. I mean, this whole year with the fall scores, but it's what's underneath that is the propensity to externalize our power. Okay, and as a spiritual awakening is becoming a bit more adaptable right now, okay, there'll be a lot of false gurus, but there's also a lot of people who are currently already in these false teachings, and the reason why they're not recognizing that is because they're not connected with their true selves. So whenever we are primarily connected with our false self, which is what we think we have to be or who we want to be, our inner true self discernment goes down, all the way to zero, all the way to living a life that is completely incongruent to ourselves. All right. And so for this next week, this will come to your awareness. This will come forward a lot. The affected energy centers next week will continue to be our first chakra, which means you need a lot of grounding, continued grounding. Our fifth and sixth chakra. Sixth chakra is your third eye. As most of you know, you'll be able to actually have some cool visions if you get past that intensity, that physical intensity. And the fifth chakra, once more, is truth, truth that wants to come forward, truth that wants to be expressed. And the way this plays out in your, on your physical, emotional, mental levels is physically, once more, like really take good care of your food this week. Okay, I mean, do this forever for the rest of your life. But if you know that you have not such a beneficial diet, then really make an effort this week to eat more raw fruits and vegetables, less processed foods, fast foods. I don't need to tell you that. I'm going to post the link here for the high vibrational living in the commentary. And make a house cleaning. I said this last week already. Like really clear out your closets. Throw away the stuff that you don't need anymore. And especially if you're a bit like me, I'm a bit inert when it comes to throwing away things, especially tools. Okay, if you have like a dull knife or a not functioning whatever, hammer or a screwdriver or whatever, throw them away and get a new one, okay? These little $5 investments can change your life because they, help you to reduce the energetic stress, all right? Yes, green smoothies, wonderful. So do a house cleaning from inside and outside, all right? And stay in that energy. Emotionally, it's very difficult with the anxiety and with the depression, and it can catch people at a very, very vulnerable space or state. And I know this, so I don't want to sound disrespectful, but you really have to go into picking yourself up where you're at, okay? If you feel that you cannot handle anything, then reduce it into baby steps. Make a list of things that you can do. Focus on what can I do right now. Forget about all the things that you cannot do right now, and definitely stop thinking about the things that you cannot even control. All right, so what can I do right now to make myself feel better, even if I just go brush my teeth or take a shower or shave? All right, this will shift your energy to a slightly higher vibratory state, and from there you will have more energy to address more complicated tasks. All right, and if it's not that bad for you, but if you're just feeling overwhelmed and you need to change, maybe your job or your business or whatever, then break it down. This is what I meant with plan making. Last week, write it down and say, okay, this is what I would like to resolve, and this is what is bugging me. Start with what doesn't go for you no more, the no-goes, all right? And formulate this for yourself. Write it down, formulate it for yourself, and start there. Mentally, you can use your mind really for this process really well, namely by going in and writing down your critical inner voice as well. Write that down. What are the things that you hear in your mind? Why you shouldn't do this? Okay, why you shouldn't look for a new job, or why you shouldn't end this relationship or whatever? Or why you shouldn't move? Start facing those fears. Start facing your concerns. Don't shove them away. The shoving away and trying to sort of detach or dissociate from them is what creates all this addictive pattern in you, and this is why a lot of people, go back to their old patterns when they feel energetic stress. So, you don't have to have the fixes, you don't need to have the resolutions, but use your mind to wiggle your way through this and ask yourself questions. Okay, what could I do? Or what could I do better? Or when you feel like you're stuck, use your mind to reframe it. Say, okay, I'm not stuck. I'm just in a place of, healthy growth last week, where things are starting to shift, where things are starting to grow. I'm seeding out new seeds. All right. So use your mind as a tool, but don't let your mind run the show. All right. In energies, it's really, a continuation of what has been happening the last 2-3 weeks. So there's still the possibility of conflicts. But my tip for you for next week, guys, make your own decisions. Don't wait for your partner to say yes or to agree or to love it. Just do it. If you feel that you need to do this, follow this. All right. And then, because that's another aspect of this correctional wave, is to then ask for support. Hey, I'm doing this and I need your support, or are you willing to support me? And vice versa. If you are in the opposite position, then ask your partner, is there anything I can do to support you, instead of trying to control, instead of trying to manipulate, or instead of becoming infringing? Just ask, is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything I can help you with right now? And do only that, instead of running around like a chicken with a head cut off on the fire, put her out, because this is what this energetic stress will do to you next week. Spiritually, it's about self-love and self-care and learning how to trust in yourself. And I'm explaining that in the forecast for April. It's really important that you begin to understand that your true self is not some like sort of mystical, etheric being outside of you. This is always in you, okay? It's that eternal, unchanging part of you, all right? And all you really need to do, is, like I said earlier, turn down the volume of all the overlay, all right? And begin to communicate with your true self. This is what I would strongly recommend to you, that you go into dialogue with yourself, but not that mental dialogue, but within, like asking yourself, how do I truly feel about this? How does this feel in my body? What kind of emotions does that trigger? And what kind of thoughts come up with this? That you see yourself as this whole being, with a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual component. And then etherically, energetically, what you can do is, because this is in the third component here that is coming in for April, is this walking the talk type of thing. Instead of getting all riled up, about conditions and what you need and how long you should meditate and how to meditate and all that, my suggestion to you is that you go into walking meditation. Get some of these free 5-minute alignments that I offer here at transCODES. It's 5 minutes. It helps your energy to align, and do this while you're walking. A lot of times, if you believe it or not, I have suggested to people who want to learn how to meditate and don't know how to do this, is to get a dog, because it really helps on many different levels, but especially also to integrate walking meditation, where you just go into this contemplative state, and that's it, guys. This is about alignment. It's not about doing something in a way. That's all false self stuff. It's about connecting and communicating within. And doing walks and hikes is a really cool opportunity, because you're also connecting with nature, and you're usually breathing a little deeper, and you get sunlight. Just don't forget your water bottle. All right. Yeah, so if you don't have any more questions, guys, this concludes my energy update here for this next week, April 6th to April 12th. If you guys want to work with me here at transCODES, you can always request a free consult, but also join the public sessions that we have. Friday is time for inner child integration, and Saturday we have our free energy group healing. So for anybody in energetic need, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. This is a free healing session. Please go to transcodes.com to sign up for that. And I hope you guys have a good week. Latest Monday, Tuesday. It should be really cool. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you.